Well, it's the third leg of the Bio-Africa Convention, and there's no way I would wrap up the broadcast of this event without speaking to Dr. Nhlanhla Msomi, who is, of course, the president as well as the chairman of AfricaBio. Baba, thank you so much for your time. Of course, you opened up today's event, which was a breakfast celebrating startups as well as announcing the winners of that particular competition. But quite important in terms of what you said was, you know, there is a celebration of representation insofar as the members or the people who are here today, and pretty much it's who needs to be represented on the diaspora.
Yes, it's Bio-Africa, and I think I have to double underline that. It's meant to bring together the entire continent. Part of the reason for that, we know in innovation, you need collaborations. And the continent has a massive intellectual capital that could be harnessed for future crises. And that is the reason that we started Bio-Africa. There is no similar convention in the continent. So we're making strides. One of the biggest strides I would, hope is that we're still standing after 6 years.
Why is that so funny for you? Is it because you're sort of reflecting on the challenges that you faced, or are you in your mind comparing the first convention to the sixth one, which I would say has been a success so far?
No, I was laughing because I was thinking of a joke attributed to Winston Churchill. We don't know whether it's true or not, but they say he was such a rude man that one day George Bernard Shaw, the playwright, invited him to the opening of his new play. And the answer that Winston Churchill gave was, "I can't make it on your opening night, but I'll come to the second night if there is one."
Yeah.
So
exactly.
whenever you start something like this, and I mentioned in today's plenary that the reason it survived and it's growing is because it enjoys so much support from various players in the innovation space. It's a solidarity play, if you want to call it that, a coalition of progressive from across the world. Our partners span the entire globe, not just Africa, but the entire globe. And they do so on the basis of shared values, on the basis of a shared mission. And that's why I think when you have that understanding or that commitment, you are likely to survive beyond the opening night.
And hopefully on the second night, you'll have
you
more.
will survive beyond the opening night. And I think the numbers that we have, that there were 800 delegates physically in Durban, speak volumes about the need for this type of engagement. And one would want to highlight the profiles of these individuals: director generals of international innovation agencies, big inventors of drugs, antivirals, and the like. And there's a number of deals that were concluded in this convention, some of which are going to define the future of our health and food security as a continent. But the most exciting part has been the presence of students from across the continent and from this country as well, because that's the future. I mentioned that not only just the startups, but also the students being introduced to innovation early in their careers. Because if you are a science student, innovation is a difficult concept to unpack or even to understand. And them rubbing shoulders with their idols, probably people who are in their textbooks,
Yes.
And who've created that knowledge that they're learning about. I mean, without mentioning names, many names, I think the presence of two gentlemen, Dennis Leota and George Painter, was a phenomenal opportunity for these students, because they took them through the paces during the weekend in the Power Entrepreneurship Bootcamp. To fast forward who these gentlemen are, Dennis Leota is the inventor, is the most prolific inventor of HIV drugs. He addressed the plenary last year. George Painter is the inventor of the first oral COVID pill, a massive breakthrough that happened at the height of COVID. And you can imagine with the challenges of vaccination, the cold chain logistics and all of those things. These guys are superstars. And for them to come to the convention and actually take time and spend that time with our students from across the continent, you know, it really is phenomenal.
It's amazing and a privilege as well. I'm interested to find out how you think the convention has evolved over time, especially when you look at how you started and where you are now.
I think the evolution has been defined by a number of events. One of the major events that obviously happened in the past 6 years was the COVID crisis. And what COVID crisis did was to show or illuminate the lines of separation between us and the global north, not just geopolitical, but also from a security perspective. So when we started the convention, we had adopted a global north model of including big companies as our partners. But as we saw during COVID that we have to do it by ourselves, on our own, we've evolved to focus more on the young, up-and-coming guys, literally the guys who stepped in and stepped up to the plate during COVID. Because when COVID hit, we suddenly were out of supplies of things that we were paying a premium for, but importing it. And the guys stepped up. A lot of the startups that you see in this convention today are startups that were formed during the period of COVID. And the evolution it augurs well for the continent in the sense that we are starting to see the development of our own indigenous industries, transforming our industries, healthcare industries, food industries, to be driven by innovation developed or adapted by local scientists and innovators. That's the big evolution. I think what I saw in terms of the numbers, we are likely to have a situation where in the not so distant future, that half of the convention will be young startups, young innovators, young scientists. And that is what is required.
And really, that's where the future is. You took a moment this morning to celebrate as well as award these young startups who are doing absolutely well. Tell me about that bit of the competition, if you like. Why was it important to set aside a morning to do that?
Thank you. You've actually said what I forgot to say.
That's why I'm here.
That's right, yeah. So the startup stadium that we have here, as I said, it defines the future of the continent. We launched it last year at this convention, but when we launched it last year, we were tentative. We were wading into uncharted territory. About a month or two ago, we then launched a continental one in Egypt, in Cairo, at the Cairo Africa Health Exhibition. So quite a number of the startups that are here in this convention, we first met them in Egypt. It is going to be, and you say we started this morning, why do we need a morning? If it was up to me, I would shift this morning to the second day to ensure that it gets the attention it deserves. The future is being defined by these guys. Guys like me, as you can tell, I'm gray, are on our way out. Not just out of this organization, but out of this mortal coil, you know. So we need to celebrate them. We need to give them the tools they need to make it. I mean, one of my old mentors in innovation, when he mentioned startups, and when I say old mentors, this was 30 years ago, Rastam Nalkaka, he hated the word incubators because he says it gives a view of helpless chicks.
Yes.
And how we should be viewing these guys is that these are the future big guys. Because at some point, all the guys that are iconic now, whether it's Apple, Google,
They started somewhere.
they were startups, not started somewhere, they were startups, nurtured through that ecosystem. In a garage, some of them, and the like. And we mustn't lose sight of that. That when you see these startups, you should be labeling them the future big companies.
Yes. And would you say, just as we wrap up, would you say that you have achieved your goals?
We are in process. I think once you declare victory, you're in trouble. This is an evolving story. And it has to meet, I think the most important goal is to create the mindset to trigger the paradigm shifts that are required for us to keep going. And not until, but to keep going so that we can meet the challenges.
All right, let's leave it there because he is quite a busy man. That was, of course, Dr. Nhlanhla Msomi, who is the president and chairman of AfricaBio, just talking to us about, what expectations they had, the caliber of people who are in attendance at this convention, but most importantly, whether or not he believes that those, principles, or should I say, the what they had in mind has been achieved. So we'll keep talking to, of course, people and delegates who are in attendance as this event unfolds.